Hello and welcome, Exiles. Today I want to show you something that I didn't even know was possible, and that's dying to reflect on a Chaos Dot character. I'm going to let the rip clip play out and then you can judge for yourself, but you may know is there isn't a reflect for Chaos damage, and there isn't reflect for dot damage, and I was doing Chaos Dot damage. That's what my character was. I was playing Blight and Contagion. Technically, this is a reroll after my death on the other Chaos Dot character. I tried out Cold Dot, didn't really like it. Then I swapped over to Lightning Trap, which was decent, but I just missed Chaos Dot and the satisfying Contagion poofing out and destroying a bunch of enemies. And so eventually I re-geared and went back to Chaos Dot, and then this happened.
Oh my, what?
Now, what it might look like to you is that my character just got overwhelmed with a bunch of hits and died. And originally, when I first died, I was like, what the hell, man? A bunch of things hit me and I died. And that's kind of what you think initially. Now, this map, the mods on it were about 80% monster haste, I believe frenzy on hit, maybe not frenzy on hit, and 33% reflected elemental damage. Now, when I swapped over to Chaos Dot, I thought to myself, yeah, I probably can run reflect maps. I'm just going to de-level my movement skill, Flame Dash. And I did that. I have a level 1 Flame Dash. Now, that's actually part of the reason I died, to be honest, because when I ripped here, I wasn't really looking at my Flame Dash cooldown charges, but you can see if I use too many of them, it goes down to 0, and then I'm waiting on a cooldown. And when I spawned this box, my plan was I'm just going to spawn boxes, Flame Dash out. I could have probably also just blighted and killed enemies and maybe been fine that way as well, but I was planning just to Flame Dash out, and I wasn't looking at my Flame Dash cooldowns, and I thought to myself, I'm going to click this box and Flame Dash out. I could potentially shield charge out, but this is a reef map. There's a bunch of random annoying terrain that you get stuck on with shield charge. It can be a bit obnoxious. So I wasn't thinking about that. And I was just jamming my Flame Dash key as I see my health bar actually get chunked. Seeing my health bar get chunked is just something that doesn't really happen on this character. It happens so rarely. The few times it does, even if you get chunked by a little bit, it's kind of scary. It's kind of shocking. It's jarring because my HP bar, my ES pool just doesn't really move on this character. And I'll show you, I'll demonstrate that in a little bit. But essentially what happened is I started jamming my Flame Dash key and then having my underleveled Flame Dash. Part of the reason my cooldown's not as good on this skill, and part of the reason that I didn't have it up to be able to Flame Dash out. Now, that wasn't the real thing that killed me. The real killer was actually, believe it or not, Tempest Shield. Now, this skill, I don't know if I'm just imagining this, but I thought at one point Tempest Shield had a line that said, damage cannot be reflected. I might just be imagining that. I don't know if that's actually real, but that's what I thought was a thing. The thing is, I tested this before doing Uber series. I went to farm and Adorned on this character. I tested Tempest Shield on a Necropolis character that wasn't in hardcore, and Tempest Shield does reflect. I tested it on Azeria. It's very clear it reflects. I didn't fully think through the fact that Tempest Shield could actually be dangerous to me in a map in terms of it's just a small damage to reflect. I'm not going to get hit that many times because I have so much evasion, but actually I have quite a high block. I have 48% attack block and about 30 spell block, maybe a little bit like 35 spell block, something like that. And what actually ended up happening here is because I had monster haste and I got stuck in the pack, I got hit by a whole bunch of attacks. Now, those attacks didn't really do much damage to my character, but when I have such high block chance, Tempest Shield hits actually decently hard. My character has, I think, like a 10k average hit for Tempest Shield, and what ends up happening is all those hits, boom, zap, 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 a bunch of chains around, a bunch of reflected damage, and that's what actually killed me. Now, if you might be in disbelief and you say, Lance, I don't think your character is actually that tanky, well, here's my character right now. I found an Immortal Shrine with a map that has crit and attack speed on it. Relatively similar mods, except the map I was playing didn't have didn't have crit, so that's a little bit more dangerous. My character does have a reduced crit damage chest, so it's only a half damage mod. I will say this is not as many enemies that were hitting me in that map, but hopefully this demonstrates how many attacks actually hit my character. My character has 55,000 evasion rating, so it says estimated 86 evade. And my character has, if you look a little bit further down on the stat sheets, 48 attack block, and it has 34 spell block. So I have a lot of damage avoidance, and then I have very high spell suppression and Trickster spell suppression recharge. Trickster, whenever I spell suppress, I have a 50% chance to start my recharge. My recharge does roughly 5.6k per second. And at base, my character has around 600, 700, 800 regen per second, depending on if I'm near a rare enemy or not. So the point is, If I get hit by a bunch of attacks, I evade over 95% of them, roughly thereabouts, 94-ish, when you consider the attack block and my evade. Or if I hit by spells, I have very high damage reduction and it procs a very high sustain mechanic, and I have Ghost Dance. The thing is, though, when I'm reflecting damage to myself, I can't suppress reflected damage, not that I know of. And on top of that, that doesn't proc recharge. So I just get hit by a bunch of damage, and I do not have my primary sustain, the 6k per second, 5.6k per second recharge that would sustain me through a lot of dangerous things. Now, when I died here, I died in about, I don't know, 2 seconds or whatever it was. 1 second, 1.5 seconds. Recharge makes a big difference on whether or not I'm dying there. But the overall thing is, the only reason I'm even taking this much damage is because of my Tempest Shield going out and hitting enemies and that damage getting reflected back to me. I am 100% convinced. It's something that I just didn't really think of, and now I know. If I'm playing a dot character and I have Tempest Shield, it's just not going to work. Because Tempest Shield, you want to have leveled up. Level 1 Tempest Shield is like 15 spell block. Level 20 Tempest Shield is like 25 spell block. So there's a difference in 10 spell block, quite a difference in defensive power. And it's really not worth to keep on low level. In the future, I'm just going to roll over Reflect. But this is how I died on this is now my third character in this hardcore SSF run. I wanted to go to do Ubers. Unfortunately, that is not happening. By the way, I've been AFKing this area for 12 minutes now. That's how long I've been sitting in the shrine. The portal to open this map was right here, and I was just doing a bunch of shrines just to see until I could find an immortal shrine. The reason I wanted to stand next to a immortal shrine is so that my Tempest Shield didn't kill the enemies while I was AFKing, explaining things. And I also turned down the volume so you guys wouldn't have to listen to all the commotion of the enemies attacking me. Anyways, this was my first attempt at doing a hardcore SSF push towards Ubers. That's what was the goal. I wanted to do it with Chaos Dot. I thought it'd be fun. I wanted to challenge myself. I view Chaos Dot as a average to below average archetype. It's pretty hard to scale damage-wise. It's definitely hard to pull off in hardcore in terms of your scaling just isn't really what it needs to be a lot of times. I tested it on a few bosses, a few Ubers in standard, and my takeaway was this. I probably, with this current gear set, would have been able to do, I want to say, comfortably 5 out of 7. I'm a little bit concerned I would misplay Maven and hit a degen laser or misplay a memory game like I died on my character before this. And I do not believe I could play well enough to survive Exarch. I tested Exarch. I did not test Maven. I tested other fights like Shaper. Shaper, I never die if I click a Mortal Call. And if I farm this character's gear more, getting something like a Taste of Hate, I think for the most part, I don't even die without a Mortal Call. I tested some slams with and without a Mortal Call on, and I think I tanked 4 out of 5 of them that I tested. So I think it depends on a high roll, and it depends on if I forget to press a Mortal Call. And the amount of times he does that slam is very few, very easy to dodge, very easy to time, and a Mortal Call is something I should be able to play with pretty consistency without any issues. So my main concern for Ubers would have been, I believe, Exarch, because he has a lot of non-suppressible damage in the ball phase, and he has the Minotaur slams, which those things start to ramp. If you don't have good damage, you start to face multiple of them, and their slams are about half the damage of the Shaper Slam. They are non-evadable, and I don't think they're blockable either, which is the most dangerous part of that Exarch fight, and part of the reason I think it ends up stacking up, and there's just a lot of room to misplay, so to speak. Anyways, I had a lot of fun altogether doing Hardcore SSF, trying to push myself and get better at the game. I think next league I might try Hardcore SSF again when the league dies down. Basically when trade starts to freeze up and everything starts to get annoying, messaging people, no one's responding. I'll probably do this again. I had a lot of fun pushing myself, seeing how far I could get. And maybe in the long term, next league we'll run it back and we'll see if we can go to Ubers next time. This time I was a bit disappointed in myself, died to a few different stupid deaths. Number 1 was dying to a memory game. I just shouldn't be messing that up. And number 2, I should be able to log when I start messing it up. But, you know, brain reaction was completely not there. I had just walked and gotten really tired that day. And then now dying to Reflect. It's just something I underestimated. I thought to myself, I'm Chaos Dot. I have a level 1 Flame Dash. I shouldn't die to Reflect, but I wasn't really thinking about the fact Tempest Shield and getting hit a bunch on a map with monster 80% attack speed could be problematic, and it was problematic. So anyways, this concludes my Hardcore SSF journey. I'm going to start working on league start testing for the new league. There's a lot of interesting things being teased in the quality of life teasers. They're sneaking in a lot of new information, like new base types, new potential rolls on items. Like, for example, they showcased the 121 flat life roll. There's a lot of stuff that'll be probably pretty exciting about next league, and I want to start preparing for it. So anyways, Hopefully you guys enjoyed as always, and hopefully you learned a thing or two, and you don't die like me as a Chaos Dot character to a Reflect map. Feels a little bit stupid. So anyways, take care. Peace out, Exiles. Have a good one.